Hi guys, Ricky Pope here, and this week on the Christian Nerd Unite podcast, I'm joined by one of my best friends, Mike Schilling of the Speaking Nerdy podcast, as we talk about James Gunn's DCU announcements, plus scripture and nerdy news, and we'll get to all of that right after this. This week is going to be a little bit different since my conversation with Mike Schilling of the Speaking Nerdy podcast is all about nerdy news. We're going to read some scripture and then jump right into the conversation. So let's start with Isaiah 53, 4-6. Surely he took up our pain and bore our suffering. Yet we considered him punished by God, stricken by him and afflicted. But he was pierced for our transgressions. He was crushed for our iniquities. The punishment that brought us peace was on him, and by his wounds we are healed. We, all like sheep, have gone astray. Each of us has turned to our own way, and the Lord has laid on him the iniquities of us all. Isaiah was foretelling what Jesus would go through many years later. He took what we deserved for our rebellion, yours and mine. I've been thinking about rebellion a lot lately, especially since I enjoy classic dystopian sci-fi so much. The stories often depict a society that has lost its way, where individuals have turned away from what's right and good, resulting in a bleak and oppressive world, even though sometimes it might not seem that way on the surface. Just as in dystopian fiction, humanity has rebelled against God, turning away from his ways and toward our own selfish desires. But instead of leaving us to suffer the consequences of our rebellion, God has sent Jesus to take the punishment that was rightfully ours. Through his death and resurrection, Jesus offers us a way back to God, a path to forgiveness and redemption, and a chance to be healed from the effects. If you've never stepped across that line to accept his punishment for our forgiveness, I pray that today will be the day. Now, let's get into my conversation with Mike Schilling about the latest announcements from the DCU. The DCU.
Exactly.
He did use an interesting term to differentiate everything.
Yeah.
He did use the term Elseworld.
Yes, he did.
So
yes,
we now formally have a DCU, and everything outside of the DCU is now Elseworlds.
That's of course referring to, of course, we're talking about like movies like, the Joker musical, the Joker musical that's supposed to be coming up.
Yes.
And also the new, Matt Reeves Batman, which is, I've enjoyed the first one. I think it was really good.
I really did as well.
I at first it was hard for me to get into it. And then I went back into it and it kind of reminded me of the comic book Long Halloween, which I really liked. Yep. And it was done very well. So I enjoyed it. And out of it, hopefully we'll have some other spinoffs, which I think are still on the schedule. The other one that I look forward to and I hope is Gotham PD / Arkham Asylum. Now,
so there was he did not make an announcement about this.
Yeah, he did not.
And I have not seen anything that said it's canceled yet.
I have not either. It's still slated, but that doesn't mean anything. Also, too, out of the Matt Reeves universe of, I don't even want to say Matt Reeves universe, because usually if you give that to somebody, it usually goes all Zack Snyder. So let's not do that. But also the Penguin, which I think would be an awesome series on HBO Max. That's also was supposed to be on the slate also. So hopefully those two, he didn't mention either one of them. No, he did not. There is a few, but there's a
But
lot
I
of
haven't
things.
seen an announcement that it's been canceled.
No, I have not. He's been very coy still. He's mentioned
Yes.
some of the things that are coming out, and we do have, I do have some of that. We have some of that we can share with you tonight. But there is some questions that we have. From my understanding, they're wanting to, and this is a thing too, and it's interesting. And apparently, don't you love the Flash? The Flash can cure anything, right? I mean, the Flash can just fix any kind of timeline,
Or destroy it.
or destroy it. So apparently, my understanding, the Flash is supposed to reset the entire universe. The Flash movie that's coming up is supposed to reset.
Yes, and I'm a little confused by that comment.
I am too. He said that specifically. I read that he did. So, but at the same time, he's saying, future of Ezra Miller as the Flash is uncertain. That's what Gunn said. And then he made the comment, and let's see what happens. So what?
Well,
so
okay. So along with that,
yeah.
Since you mentioned the Flash, he stated that Shazam: Fury of the Gods, which has kind of been in its own little space.
Exactly. Yeah.
Kind of, but not quite.
Yeah.
Kind of, but not quite. He said Fury of the Gods will lead directly into the Flash.
Yes.
And then he said Aquaman is still going to fit in there as well, but Aquaman doesn't come out until November.
I'd see, unless he's going to do a cameo in there.
But see, like, does that mean we get a Flash cameo in Shazam? Or does that mean they've shot some weird tag ending to Shazam that's going to be like, what just happened? And now we have to watch the Flash to know the thing that actually happened.
Yeah. Well, see, what I'm trying to understand is that if you read through James Gunn's vision, is that he's wanting to bring a younger actors to play these superheroes and villains. And so, of course, Momoa is what I had before the show. Momoa, he's not what James Gunn is looking for from what I'm reading as what qualifies to be part of this new DC universe. So it's interesting to me how Ezra Miller, which is young. Of course, he's also, in trouble every time you turn on the TV. But I'm not understanding. And also, too, the other thing, we're talking about the original, and I call it the Snyderverse actors. We know Affleck is out. We know Cavill is out. But there was and I was going to put this out, that was a tweet from Peter Gunn. They were asking him a question
James
about
Gunn, not Peter Gunn.
Peter Gunn. That's a great song. Wow. Thank you, James Gunn. Peter Gunn. Yeah, catch me with Peter. So, but there was no mentioned. Gal Gadot involvement is uncertain. And Gunn stated that they've talked to her and she is up for doing stuff, but they're not for sure what they're going to do with that. Now, there is supposed to be a new series that's supposed to come out, which is part of their plan, which has to do with the I think it's called the Lost. Paradise Lost.
Paradise Lost, yes.
And it's basically supposed to be a HBO Max series that takes place on the island
Themyscira.
Themyscira.
I've heard it pronounced different ways.
Now they say it's supposed I was trying to give it, and now it's interesting in the description of it, they talk about it kind of provides a Game of Thrones type of treatment to it. So so they're trying to, it's all about, it's about politics in an all woman society. And so it's,
well, and apparently in the comics, there's some backstory here where there was like, I read a little bit about this. There's like there was this battle between two leaders of the Amazons.
Yeah.
And in the comics, it's like one group left and went to Egypt and the other group stayed in Themyscira, which I don't think that's where they'll go with this.
Because if they did that, yeah.
But I could see them having, the power struggle kind of thing. When it says Game of Thrones, the first thing that popped into my head was, okay, so we're going to have sex scenes because that's what Game of Thrones is known for.
Only on HBO Max. Yes.
Exactly. Skinamax.
Well, they don't do that on superhero movies, Peacemaker.
Peacemaker. I'm looking at you, Peacemaker. And it's James Gunn, so it's very likely. I'm not. So
he's involved in directing a lot of these shows. And that's the other thing is that
is my
that's concern
is you've taken a director and writer and you've put him in charge, but my fear is he's going to take over projects and not hand them off to other people, which is what Feige is really good at doing.
Yes.
Feige's really good at going, here's your movie.
Yeah.
You need to do this, this, and this, and I don't care how you figure it out.
Yeah.
Go do it.
Yeah.
Just make sure it leads up to this one thing.
Yeah.
And you add these two things to it.
Yeah.
I'm really fearful that Gunn is going to have his fingers too much in the pie.
Now, what is his partner? I can't remember his name. Safran.
Yeah.
I don't hear a whole lot of what he's going to do in all of this.
Well, in the past, he has been a producer.
Yeah.
And producers are more of, they're above the line. They're, they oversee, they keep an eye on. Kevin Feige is a producer on most, if not all, of the Marvel movies.
Yeah.
And that's my guess is what Safran is going to do.
Gotcha.
But I think Gunn is going to be more in the weeds. And that concerns me a little bit.
Yeah.
I like James Gunn. He does good work. I don't want to see a campy DCU.
Yeah.
I don't want to see the whole DCU turn into campy, weird, the Suicide Squad.
Yeah, I don't want the whole DC universe be like American Pie or Porky's. I mean, I don't want. Seriously. Yeah. I mean, look at some of the stuff that's came out.
Yes.
I mean, that's one thing I really like about Matt Reeves' Batman is because it has a serious, dark tone, but at the same time, I don't know how to explain it, but it's it's gritty, but it fits that universe, the DC universe. Yes. And so, well, one thing I've read too, and the comment was the DCU is aiming for 2 movies and 2 HBO Max series per year. And that's
not a bad plan.
Yeah. So that was, which I think is fine. I think that's reasonable. I don't know if so, I think that's a good plan. The thing is I'm concerned about is they're going to oversaturate it so much that it really, you're not going to be able to differentiate anything from, from something that's serious and something that's campy like Peacemaker. I mean, I mean, there is some stuff that I look forward to. I mean, some things that are interesting to me. One of the projects they have slated is lanterns, and that looks good. And no, we're not
be really good.
And no, we're not talking about Ryan Reynolds. And from my understanding, and I'm reading
honestly, if Ryan Reynolds doesn't make a cameo, it's a misstep.
It's a misstep. Yeah. And he would do it. He would do it.
He would totally do it. Totally do it. Just like random bystander that makes a joke,
Yeah.
It's like, it would be funny. Or, have Ryan Reynolds, the lanterns go flying by, you pan to the crowd, Ryan Reynolds is standing there going, I wish I could be one of those guys. I mean, that would be great. And it's over and he's offset.
Well, why not? Marvel did that in Deadpool. They had a little bit of the gag in there, Easter eggs and stuff.
Well, like Marvel always threw in a Stan Lee cameo.
Yeah, exactly.
While he was alive. And it was always a jokey, weird little thing. They could totally do that on this. It would be great.
I think so too.
I don't know that they will, but
I don't know. But just kind of a bio of it, and this is again from Gunn's description. They're saying that the series is kind of akin to HBO's True Detectives in Space. And of course, I've seen a couple of True Detectives, and they're pretty good. It's on they're space cops. Investigators.
Yeah.
And so, it's talked about mystery is at the core, and that could very well connect the big moment or a big villain that will bring all of DC Studios movies and series together. That was the description. The other thing I found was interesting, I was reading through here too, was, and I want to get to that because I thought it was real interesting reading it on some of their animated, they talked about on their animated series. Here we go. Well, this right here I was reading, and this sounds like something that kind of back up. Sorry about this. I'm going to kind of back up a little bit here. On one of my notes I was reading. Now, back in Marvel, where they ended up having, before Feige decided for Marvel that they weren't going to do long contracts anymore. But in the beginning, they did. They got all these people, and they had a 8-year contract or something like that. Well, right now, the plan is 8 to 10-year plan has been set up, and actors will have to sign a decade-long deal for movies and TV appearances.
Ooh. Decade-long deal.
Yes.
Wow. So we are doing the Kevin Feige playbook.
Yes, that's exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Where did you find that? I haven't read that.
I read that. That was in actually IGN.
Okay.
I think it was over in IGN, and that was on the list. It was part of the listing of, his speech. He had a video speech and he was talking about the plan.
I didn't catch that.
And there was well, he didn't. Yeah, it was part of the it wasn't so much what he said. It was also in the plan, the actual written plan that they had written out.
Oh, so, okay.
Yeah. So he didn't actually said that.
He didn't say it in the video. Okay. All right. That makes more sense. But that's fascinating. And honestly, that's not a bad idea.
Well, and if he wants to make a consistent universe, that's what it's going to have to do. Yeah. And that's probably why, if you think about it, I mean, that's why maybe he's scratching his head for Ezra Miller. I mean, can you see?
You really want to sign Ezra Miller for 10
years? Yeah.
Because you're going to have to pay it out.
Yeah.
See, that's the bad thing about contracts like that.
Yeah.
Is you write this big contract and then you say, we need to write him out of all the movies.
Yeah.
You still end up having to pay him to not be in movies.
I have a feeling that Ezra Miller is not going to be. I think once he does the Flash,
I think he's probably done.
and because the whole reset will completely start from scratch. It sounds like to me the doing this whole this flashpoint, whatever you want to call this, whatever going to happen in the Flash, sounds like to me, and it wasn't meant to be, but it sounds like they're going to use this as a way to actually let's start here.
So here's my expectation right now.
Yeah.
Based on the fact that there are 3 movies this year.
Yeah.
One is pre-Flash, one is post-Flash.
Yes.
Here is my guess that at the end, my guess is that they're actually all going to be considered to have happened at the same time.
Yeah.
All 3 movies, as far as DC Universe timeline, they will all have happened simultaneously. And at the end of each movie, there will be some little moment or some post-credit scene where the world changes suddenly.
Yeah.
And that's what we're actually going to get to see in The Flash.
Yeah.
But the other 2 movies will just happen, and then all of a sudden we see a glimpse of what is happening in other places.
Yeah. Well, they're going to have to go back. I mean, for The Flash, they did shoot. I mean, if you look at The Flash and you look at some of the behind the scenes stuff that they had, Affleck did a scene, Ben Affleck, Cavill was, they did a shot for him, and Kadat was also shot as Wonder Woman. Of course, now they're going to scrub those. So how do you fill those holes to make it a cohesive storyline? And then you don't forget about, Michael Keaton as Batman. What's going on with that end of it?
Yeah. Is he going to stick around?
I mean,
just going to erase him at this point.
Yeah.
At the end of this.
I mean, I still think, a Batman Beyond would be a perfect.
Oh, that would be great.
And even with going with a younger generation of superheroes, still that's fine. You still have to have an elder, and why not an elder Bruce Wayne? But
as good as that sounds, he is pretty explicit that his Batman is going to be a Batman and Robin Batman.
Yes, I know. Yeah, and that's the thing. He's going to basically do, and it's going to be basically, it's going to be his son.
Yeah, it's Damian Wayne. Is that right?
Yeah, and so it's definitely going to go from that aspect of it. They're going to go with because the comic book series, The Brave and the Bold, they're going to make this into a live action. And so it's and of course it's based off of Grant Morrison's comic run that he did, but but basically it's going to have Damian Wayne, if you're not familiar, folks, it's the son of Bruce Wayne, and Talia al Ghul. Talia al Ghul will also be in it. And from my understanding, they'll also include other members of the Bat family as well.
Yes. This is the one thing that gives me a little hope.
Yeah.
I said earlier, I don't want to see a big campy, the Suicide Squad version of the DCU.
Yes, I don't either.
The one thing that gives me a little hope is that they keep pointing back to these comic series and say, this movie is going to be kind of this story.
Yeah.
Kind of that story. It's like the Supergirl story.
Yeah.
Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow.
Yes.
Woman of Tomorrow, is that right?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. Woman of Tomorrow. It's going to be a much more jaded Supergirl.
Yeah.
Damian Wayne is basically this little homicidal maniac
who
becomes Robin. So there's these dark and gritty story points that give me a little bit of hope that this is going to be a more interesting DC universe. I just don't know if Gunn can keep it's like saying we want Tika Waititi to write a serious movie.
Yeah, that really is my concern.
Yeah.
That's my concern. I don't want his hand into the pot all the time. I want him, he talks about being this great fan, and that's awesome. But, don't forget that DC has a darker tone to it. And it doesn't need to be Peacemaker, Suicide Squad, campy, crazy. Some of that's fine. I mean, I enjoyed Suicide Squad.
Absolutely.
The last one. The last one was really good. So don't get me wrong. Peacemaker, not a fan for my own reasons. You out there may be a fan. It was just too over the top for me. It's just, it's my sensibilities when it comes to that. So
I'm the same way. I enjoyed the Suicide Squad. There was just enough of Peacemaker in that for me.
Yeah.
I didn't need a whole Peacemaker series.
No, I didn't either.
But I think, if he can tone down some of those aspects, I think there's a good shot.
Yeah.
I'm just afraid he's going to write too many things.
Yeah. Well, so far looking through the project list, his name is in a lot of them, and that concerns me.
As either writer or director or both.
Yeah. Now, speaking of the Peacemaker and the Suicide Squad, and I'm concerned about this one, but I really would like to see this become more serious. Is, of course, they have a series called Waller.
Yes.
And she's kind of the DCU version of Nick Fury,
A little bit.
I mean,
kind of,
not character wise.
Yeah. I'm not quite. Yeah. Waller is an interesting character.
Yeah. Ruthless. She's ruthless.
Yes.
I mean, there's no, yeah. I mean, it's not the same.
There's not much redeeming qualities behind Waller.
No. So
she does what she does, and she really doesn't care who she runs over to get the job done. Which is fine. That's her character.
That's her character.
But, she does bring people together. And from what I read, the Waller series is going to take many of the extra characters from Peacemaker into its series.
Yes.
Which makes sense. I don't know where that leaves Peacemaker. Because you and I talked before the show that
I'm not a John Cena fan, so
there's supposed to be a Peacemaker season 2.
From my understanding, yes. Yeah. Well, I mean, and now the writers in this, it's written by Christelle Henry, who was the person who did Watchmen, and then there's Jeremy Carver, who also was a writer for Supernatural. So maybe their sensibility come through. I mean, the Watchmen was dark, like I say, you want some humor in it, but I don't want it to go all berserk like, the Peacemaker series.
Yes.
That's just too over the top. And that's, you have that with Peacemaker. Let this be something a little more, with some substance, but still humor, because you do have, the team, the people,
right.
And the support team. I'm sure the support team will be there, so I'm hoping that will be good. But there's some,
I think that'll be interesting.
There's some that I'm not aware of that's on the project list that I've never heard before. One of them, and I don't know if I have a shot of that, but I probably don't. But it's called Booster Gold.
Yes, Booster Gold is an interesting DC character. You're not familiar with him?
Well, I know he's a time traveler, but I'm not familiar with him.
So basically, the premise, I don't know a lot. I've read about it. Okay. I've not read his comics. So the premise is he's this nobody in the future who steals a bunch of high-tech stuff, travels back into the past to become a superhero so he can be famous.
Okay. So that's what I read too. Yeah.
Which is, it's interesting. It's kind of a weird,
this is weird
thing. And from what I recall, watching something, I don't remember what I was watching or reading. I did watch or read something with Booster Gold,
Yeah.
and he had, since he's from the future, he has this little partner with him
Yeah.
that that knows everything that's supposed to happen. So he goes around and uses that knowledge of the future in order to be successful, which is kind of weird.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Yeah. I think the other one too is the Blue Beetle is another one that's supposed
Blue
to be
Beetle. That one's already in the works.
And
that's going to be interesting to see, because it was written and shot before all this.
Yeah.
Is it going to be in its own little Elseworld, or is he going to bring it into the DCU? And did they put anything in it that would make it not fit in well?
Yeah, they said it was originally planned as an HBO Max film, and now
it's going to have a theatrical release.
But they're saying that it's now slated for theatrical release, according to Hollywood Reporters. So that, of course, that now they're talking about, and I don't know how current this is. They were talking about August 18th, 2023. I don't know. That's kind of weird to me, because it's almost like you need to like empty out what's left of the Snyderverse.
I had actually forgotten Blue Beetle is supposed to come out this year.
Yeah.
So that's another one that's, where is it going to fit in? Is it is it going to be old universe? Is it going to be Elseworld? I'm not sure how that one's going to play out. Another one that I'm kind of interested in is The Authority.
Yeah.
The Authority, I don't know enough. I don't know much about this particular group, but they come from a DC imprint called Wildstorm. And I don't know how much you were into the comics in the early to mid 90s, but do you remember Image Comics? Image was this company that started a bunch of writers and artists, basically left DC and Marvel and started their own company called Image. It's where Todd McFarlane came from, Spawn and all that. And, they owned the rights to their characters. Well, Jim Lee was one of the people, and he created two groups of characters, one called Stormwatch and one called Wildcats. And I kind of liked the comics. There were some interesting, really great art, interesting stories. Well, that universe was a combined universe for Jim Lee. Well, he sold that universe to DC. And under that imprint of Wildstorm, there was another writer and artist who created another set of characters.
Yeah.
And that's The Authority. So I'm kind of interested to see how they're going to play in. Apparently, a few years ago, they crossed over and finally became part of the mainstream DC comic universe.
Gotcha.
But there'll be something that most people will never have been familiar with. It'll be a little like when the Eternals made a movie, except the Eternals were like from the 60s and nobody knew about them.
Yeah, exactly.
This will be, they're from the 90s and early 2000s and nobody's heard of them.
Gotcha. Yeah, there's some kind of, from what I read, they're like some kind of like the Justice League version of the anti-heroes type of deal.
I read a little bit, but I didn't read much. I don't know much.
Like I said, I'm interested in it too. I don't know much about the story or the characters in it, so definitely be something.
Yeah, I think it will be something we've not seen before. So it could be great or horrible. I don't think it'll be anywhere in between.
Now this one here is kind of there's one that kind of reminds me The Howling Commandos are Marvel, but they're creatures, you know?
Yes.
The Creature Commandos is what that is. Yeah.
Such a weird.
It's a weird deal.
Group.
It's supposed to be an animated series, and it is, by the way, it's written by Gunn.
Already written.
Already written. Yes.
Or at least mostly already written. Many episodes have already been written.
Apparently, on it says a team of classic monsters led by the Bride of Frankenstein.
Yes.
Now, this is interesting. The voice actors will also be asked to play their respective characters in live action. Now, this is a big thing, too. Is that if you're going to be in an animated series and you're going to be in a live series, if your character in a live series is going to be animated or vice versa, that you need to be the voice. You need to be that actor. And that's where he wants that consistency. And I guess that's where the whole, hey, you got a decade contract with us comes in, because there's a lot there. I mean, so, I mean,
that's something that's a little different. It'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. Because there are some people that are really good as voice actors, but aren't that great on camera.
Exactly.
Don't live up to their character look.
Well, I mean, how many voice actors of TV shows I listen to, and I imagine what that voice actor looks like, and it looks like Michael Ironside looks nothing like some of the characters that he's did in cartoons or in video games, which is kind of funny. So, but this animated shows starts off with 7 episodes, and it has
gonna be short. Okay.
Yeah. 7 episodes, animated show. It's going to have Amanda Waller, which creates a black ops team of monstrous prisoners. So
Waller, it figures that it would be Waller that would do this.
So I'm sure that Viola Davis is going to do the voice acting of that,
probably,
which is fine.
Speaking of that idea, you've seen Kevin Conroy?
Yeah.
Can you imagine Kevin Conroy as the Batman?
No.
He's amazing voice actor. Perfect for Batman. Yeah. He could never act. He could never do that live action.
But as far as I'm concerned, he is the Batman. Just like Hamilton, Mark Hamill, he is the Joker,
He is the Joker.
Which, by the way, go ahead.
I was going to say, you may have been about to say the same thing. I read a quote from Mark Hamill that basically said, if Kevin Conroy's not the Batman anymore, I'm probably never going to play Joker again.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Yeah. So,
and which is, it is kind of a tribute to Kevin Conroy.
It is. It is. It's fitting. I mean, the two of them have done that for so long. So, yeah, definitely. I totally think that's pretty classy of Hamilton.
I think so.
Yeah. The other one is the Swamp Thing.
That could be good.
It says that it's supposed to be a horror movie.
Which could mean the Creature Commandos show up at some point in real life.
It could. And it's supposed to be the dark origin story. So what's that? I'm going to write that down. But also, and then on another note too, we all know, we didn't mention real quick, is the Superman Legacy.
Oh yeah, we should mention that right off the bat.
Yeah, that's kind of right off the bat. We should have. I think we were so focused on everything else. Now, Gunn announced a release date for the new Superman movie he's writing, which will not star Henry Cavill, unfortunately.
No, we're going to have a younger.
Yes.
Which it's a little unclear how young. A younger Superman, but not an origin story.
Now he says on the subject title, on the subject base on it, it says that Legacy will show Clark Kent balancing his Kryptonian heritage with his human upbringing. It said it will not serve as an origin story, and it said the movie is slated for July 11th, 2025.
And if I'm correct, that is technically the first movie.
Yes,
of Gunn's new DCU.
Yes, Gods and Monsters is
so
the phase.
That means 2024 is the opportunity for the Joker movie, Folie à Deux, and for the Batman.
Yes. And if they want to go and do some of the series like the Penguin or Gotham PD / Asylum Arkham. Yeah.
Yeah. I can see that being a way for them to fill the gap.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm a little sad that we're not going to dive into Matt Reeves' Batman universe.
Yeah.
As the main DCU.
Yeah.
I think Pattinson did a really great job. I think he deserved to be able to be the Batman for the universe.
I think so too. I think he did
I'm glad they're going to allow them to keep making those movies.
Yeah.
But I think the more movies the further we get into Gunn's process, the less room there's going to be for Elseworld movies.
And that's what my concern is too. I mean, Elseworld movies is just a nice way of saying, well, these are the movies we have out already, so we're going to call it Elseworld. It's kind of a nice way to...
It's a nice way to say, we've already committed to these, so I guess we're going to do it.
Yeah, we're going to go ahead and do it. So
I'm not going to be a part of it, so I don't care about them. But
I don't either. But Patterson, I think Patterson deserved to be the Batman, and I think it's a missed opportunity.
I think so.
Missed opportunity.
Yeah.
So
I think it would have been really easy to just cross him over.
Yeah.
Especially if we're not going to get a Superman movie until 2025.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I mean, that allows that Batman year 2 Batman to mature.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I guess the only real problem is, having having a son old enough to be Damian Wayne.
Well, that's true. That's true.
That would be the only snag.
Yeah. Well, see, if that's the case, then that particular Batman cannot be a young guy.
No, it has to be an older Batman.
That's the thing. It's going to have to be an older Batman. So
he can't be a 1989 Batman.
No, he can't.
But he could have been an Affleck Batman.
He could have.
That would have been a decent age range.
Yeah.
To find out you have how old's he supposed to be? 14?
Yeah.
15?
He's a preteen. Yeah.
Preteen. So 12, 11, 12?
I would think so.
Old Robin? Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure how old he was supposed to be in those comics. But, that would be okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're going to have a Batman who's mid-30s.
Yeah, you would think so. At least in the mid-30s.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to be interesting who you're going to pick for that.
Yep.
And it's going to have to, you're going to have to be a real, you have to pick a dad. You're going to have to pick someone who, and of course, Batman is not, you call him very
he's
fatherly.
Not a good dad.
Yes, he's not a good dad. Not a good dad. Hey kid, you want to be Robin? You might get killed. So
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not a good dad.
No, he's not.
I question how that's going to fit in with a younger Superman.
Yeah, because really, if you think about it, Superman and Batman are supposed to be peers.
Yeah. So if we have a 30-something Batman, but we're going to have, I'm thinking, if it's not an origin story and he's not a teenager, we're probably talking post-college Superman.
Yeah.
So mid-20s.
Yeah.
Just moved to Metropolis, getting his first job at the newspaper.
Yeah. I mean, that's what it sounds like to me. I don't know.
That's what it sounds like to me too.
Yeah. So
we've got a mid-20s Superman and a 30-ish-year-old Batman.
Yeah, because I don't understand exactly what they're talking about. Him trying to balance his Kryptonian heritage with, his his world as a human being, being of the earth. So it makes it really weird. It almost makes one of these things like he's struggling between being Kryptonian and being, for not to be an origin story, it's kind of weird where they're coming from on this.
Yeah.
For me anyway. I mean,
you would think that would be the teen angst period.
Yeah. Kryptonian heritage with
coming to age, whether it's an origin story or not, it's that coming of age story.
Yeah.
But it doesn't sound like that's what they're going to do.
Hopefully not.
He's not going to be a teenager coming to grips with his life.
Yeah.
It sounds more like he's going to be a young adult who's finding his way in the world.
Yeah. I just, I think people are done with the origin stories because we all know Batman origin. We all know, we understand the origin of Superman.
Yes.
It's, so there's no reason to rewrite it or rehash it again.
Well, you would think that, but that's not what executives think.
Exactly.
Oh, we must tell the story of this new Batman, how he started.
We need to remind them.
No, we don't.
No, we really don't. We don't. We know.
We really don't.
We're the nerds. We understand. Thank you.
The X-Men can just suddenly show up.
They can in an empty house. So, So anyway, So there's a lot happening. I'm sure there's going to be a lot more news coming down the pike. I'm sure there'll be a lot of changes. by the time we have this conversation again, some of these could already be canceled. So, hopefully
Gunn is not going to cancel his own ideas, but
I doubt he'll do that.
I think my prediction is that we will get 3 or 4 years down the road and DC will decide whether it worked or not.
Yeah.
And if they decide it didn't work, Gunn will be out.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
That's my I'm not saying he's going to be out.
No.
I'm just saying the execs will make a decision and they will either cut their losses or not. I'm not sure which it will be.
Yeah.
That company over there is so.
Yeah.
It's so weird how they make decisions over there. I just don't know what they'll do.
Yeah. Well, and then we can have an entire show about, my personal feelings that Zack Snyder's verse could have been salvaged and could have been something great.
I think so too.
So
I love chatting with Mike about all things nerdy. You can check him out every week on the Speaking Nerdy podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts. Well, that's all I have for you today. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, click all those links. That way you're informed anytime we put out new content. And you can find all of our social links to our YouTube channel and our online store at ChristianNerdsUnite.com. If you enjoy the show and want to help even more, consider becoming a supporter on Patreon. Recently, we changed all of our Patreon levels. Every level has great benefits and makes a huge difference in the ministry we're able to do. Supporters will also get to hear exclusive stories of believers we're serving around the world through our ministry partners. To check it out or to partner with us, go to patreon.com/ChristianNerdsUnite or ChristianNerdsUnite.com and click support in the menu. Before you go, I do want to leave you with this blessing. May the grace of God uphold you. May the peace of God surround you. May the love of God flow from you. And the strength of God protect and bring you safely through this week. We'll see you next week. Blessings.
Hey.